From Pecnic and Schaefer, and one Friday night with my very good friend Walter, we went down to Long Beach High School and we had a great time watching Finian's Rainbow, and it's my pleasure to have three of the stars of the show. It was a great event, great play, and Matt Pashota, talk about your experience. You're a senior, you're one of the leads. Talk about the rehearsals and what it was like putting on that great performance of Finian's Rainbow.
Well, when you start the musical rehearsals and everything, you personally I don't really know what to expect. But as you start to go on, you start to get into your character. You start to your mannerisms start to change. And you start doing some things that your character would do. And I mean, it's 3 hours a week, 3 hours per rehearsal, 3 times a week. So it's like 9 hours a week you're rehearsing. After a while, it does get a little tiring. Does get a little almost a little redundant, but it's still fun. Like, you're with your friends, you're singing, you're learning your lines, you're blocking scenes all the time. I don't know, it's a really great experience to do, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it.
Russell, you played the leprechaun. You had some great scenes in the movie, in the play. Talk about your experience and talk about the bond that there was between all the actors and actresses, because you're putting in hours of rehearsals. You know, all culminating and putting on the event in front of sold-out audiences. What was that like, the bond between the actors and all the hard work you put in?
Well, Howie, it was a great experience as a whole. You know, the cast was great. We all meshed together, and the pit orchestra was, you know, stellar, and the staff that we worked with were all, you know, so nice, and you know, and the bond between each cast member grew and grew, you know, from each rehearsal, and basically, you know, you started to learn everybody's personality as the show went on, and the finished product was great, and I had a really great time working with all these talented fellow actors and actresses, and it was a great experience.
During that time, Gavin was nowhere to be found because he was so involved in the acting of the play. Gavin, it was a lot of time, but it was really worth it, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But when you're doing shows every year, you know, I've been doing it for 3 years now. Matt's been doing it for 4, Russell's been doing it for 2, and he's gonna be doing it for another 2 years. You know, you have a great time there. And if there's one word that can describe the cast as a whole, definitely at the end of the show it would be family, because you know, the first day you go there, you know, you're like, you kind of have cliques in a way, you know, you have one group over here, one group over there, doing their own thing. But then, by the last night of the show, everyone's together, everyone's having a great time that you wouldn't even expect to know at the first day of practice, you know. So it's a great experience for everyone, you know, as a whole, not just me, not just Russ, not just Matt, but as a whole, it's great for everyone.
One of my favorite scenes is you were looking so good. You were all set to get married. You were in the aisle. You were both dressed up in beautiful garb. And all of a sudden, Buzz comes in and ruins your thing. So this is your opportunity to get back at him.
Well, he ruined the entire wedding. We're sitting there singing our song to each other, and all of a sudden he barges in with papers to arrest my wife and stuff.
Hold it, Mahoney, hold it!
Hold it, Mahoney, hold it, Mahoney. I honestly, when we blocked that scene, I was in shock. I couldn't even imagine if somebody were to do that at my actual wedding, what would happen. I'd go crazy. I don't even know what I would do. It was great.
Russell, is there a scene, a moment that stands out that was your favorite part of the whole play?
Howie, I'd probably say that my favorite scene of the show was my scene with Susan the Silent, who I think is Sharon, but when I'm not near the girl I love the girl I'm near, which is the song I sang. And I thought it was a great song because I got to show, you know, a lot of personality in the song and the character role that Og displayed, and it was just, you know, that was probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, you don't want to sing the song, do you?
No.
But that was the favorite scene. Gavin, how about you? What if you had to pick one scene that stands out the most? What would it be?
Oh, definitely. I think that in the, I think it was the third scene of the first act, me and the butler, David Henry, we had a great scene, and of course Adam Goldenberg, he played Rawkins, the governor, or the senator. We had a great scene, and, you know, I was bossing around the butler because in the South, you know, he was a black guy, so in the South, you know, they were taught to be that blacks were uneducated, and he was actually an educated African American, so he came in, and I talked to him like he was, you know, didn't have a clue. And it was real funny because he was sitting there talking like he knew everything I was saying, and I was like, why don't you get it? You know, it was real funny. It was great.
I want to know the emotion. Now, I would have bet that the emotion between you guys is different. When it was over, the last performance over, you're a senior, and your last play, are you feeling relief that it's over? Are you feeling sadness? Matt, what went through your mind when the last performance was over?
When the last performance over went through my mind, well, there were a whole bunch of emotions. There was happiness, sadness, relief, like joy, like every emotion, because like Gavin said before, like we will become our own little families at the end of the show. And I've been doing this for 4 years, so that's like 4 different families that I've gone through. But it's kind of sad at the end because you don't you know that you're never gonna be able to work with these people again unless miraculously in the future you guys end up probably, I don't know, at the same college or on Broadway or something. But it's sad, especially with the director. I've known her since 6th grade, and I'm never gonna be able to work with her again unless, like I said before, we run into each other in the future. So it was definitely, I'm gonna go with sad and kind of depressed almost that it's all over.
Russell, you got 2 more years left, and brilliant actor, so I guess your feeling was, it was great, but hey, I got 2 more years of this.
Well, of course, you know, I'm looking forward to the next 2 years and of great shows, but you almost feel, like Matt said, you know, a little bit of a sense of depression because you put weeks and weeks and months into the show for only 3 nights. And now, although they were great 3 nights, you know, it's kind of, you have that, you know, little sadness to it because, you know, you work so hard and it's over after 3 nights. But I'm looking forward to the next 2 years, and it should be great.
And Gavin, your feeling when it all ended?
Well, you know, when you go through the whole process of rehearsals for months and weeks, however long we had, you know, you have it's actually, you have a really fun time at the practices. You know, it might be 3 hours, it might be taking up your night, taking up your whole week, but you have fun, you know. So at the end, you feel like the first thing you feel is finally this is over, time to go home and sleep. But then the next day you're like, it's 6 o'clock and you're not at rehearsal. What's going on? What am I doing with myself? You know, there's a sense of absence there, but there's an empty feeling. But we miss it, but it's great time. It's great time.
Let's give it up for they did a great job. Great job. All right, and now we're gonna bring up my man. He's gonna talk about the business of music. Let's give it up for Eddie Digital.
All right. Well, thank you, Howie. Welcome to WGBB, the Business of Music Report with Eddie Digital. First, I have to mention this Thursday night for American Idol, we have one contestant still in the running, Robbie Rosen. And he's the only guy from New York, the only guy from Long Island, so make sure to vote for Robbie on Thursday night. To wrap up Black History Month, we have Black Music Month coming up in June, but along with Walter, I just wanted to mention a few of the top, I mean there's so many, but just a few of the top performers. African American, Black History Month, and I'm going to break it down by genre. And I'm going to start with hip-hop. I'm going to start with rap. And we're going East Coast and we're going West Coast. So we're going to start with Long Beach, California. And we have to give it up for Snoop Doggy Dogg. And one thing about Snoop is, I bet most people don't know this, is how did Snoop get his nickname? How did he get his name Snoop Dogg? His mother named him Snoop Dogg because she thought he looked a lot like Snoop from Peanuts. So that's West Coast. Let's kick it now on the East Coast. From Queens, New York, Run DMC. What a breakthrough for African American folks with hip hop in New York, in Queens, on the East Coast. They not only brought mainstream hip hop they brought culture. They started to wear the sneakers. They started to wear the basketball jerseys. They really introduced what people know as new school rap to America. Let's get into the swing era. Let's talk about one of my all-time favorites, Nat King Cole. Hailed the best and most influential piano players and group leaders in the swing era. Now let's go over to some jazz, some Billie Holiday halftime, Howie. Have to mention Billie Holiday, a brilliant jazz vocalist. Best in the 30s and 40s, she had such a unique style and delivery with such intense emotion and passion. Going into some jazz and soul, Mr. Soul himself, Mr. Marvin Gaye. His most popular, I heard it through the grapevines. He started out in a gang, and then he became a big member of his father's church, and he started one of the biggest doo-wop groups of all time called the Rainbows. To end things, R&B, we have to mention Usher. Usher started in the 90s with his beautiful, smooth, and sexual ballads, and he has become such a huge R&B superstar over the years, and he's still on the top of his game. And one more I must mention is Mr. Michael Jackson to end it up with pop. The seventh son of 9 children, started performing at 5 years old, one of the most famous household names in the world, Mr. Michael Jackson. So that wraps it up for this edition of the Business of Music with Eddie Digital. Thank you, halftime.
All right, great job. And now, let's do the hockey spin with Tracy Lynn.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Hockey Spin with Tracy Lynn on WGBB. I do have to start out once again talking about how 2 of my greatest passions have merged, hockey and saving the oceans. Operation Splash has partnered with the New York Islanders to raise money towards the effort to clean up the South Shore of Long Island. Operation Splash has flyers around town to purchase great seats at discounted prices for the April 8th must-see game against the hated Pittsburgh Penguins. This will be the first time these 2 teams meet since the massive brawl game where the Islanders blew out the Penguins 9-2. You have to be at this game. Just be sure to buy your tickets through Operation Splash. Part of the proceeds will go to the organization to help with the effort. You can also buy tickets by going to www.operationsplash.net. Okay. The NHL trade deadline came in like a lion and went out like a lamb. As I really suspected, it was a fairly quiet day yesterday, with the majority of the trades happening over the 2-week period leading up to the 3 p.m. deadline yesterday. Only the Rangers and Devils made moves locally. The Rangers definitely came out on the winning end. They added veteran defenseman Brian McCabe from the Florida Panthers in exchange for Tim Kennedy. McCabe brings experience to the team. He's a totally solid acquisition for the Blue Shirts. And then the Devils traded Jason Arnott to the Washington Capitals for David Steckel and a second-round draft pick. And again, I really think the Devils came out on top in this trade. Steckel leads the league with, Steckel leads the NHL with face-off wins and is 6 years younger than Jason Arnott. Never discount the importance of a face-off man. It's very important. With the exception of waiving Rob Schremp, who was picked up by the Atlanta Thrashers the other day, the Islanders had a very quiet day. There were rumors that the teams were interested in defenseman Radek Martinek and forward Zenon Konopka, but apparently a deal could not be made. One big name that was in play an awful lot was Brad Richards from the Dallas Stars, with the Rangers expressing a very strong interest in him. He's actually sitting out with a concussion right now, but he is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, and it'll be pretty interesting to see where he ends up at the end of the year. The playoff race in the West is as tight as it can possibly get, and the fourth place team can actually miss the postseason. The 4th place Phoenix Coyotes have 76 points. Behind them we see Chicago and LA in 5th and 6th with 74 points. Calgary holding on to the 7th place spot with 73 points. 3 teams tied for the 8th through 10th place with 72 points. The 11th place Anaheim Ducks have 71 points and are only 5 points out of 4th place. So it really doesn't get any tighter than that. It's an extremely competitive conference, and it's anyone's game out there. Local action tonight, we see the Rangers in Buffalo taking on the Sabres. The Sabres are also fighting for a playoff spot and are 2 points out of the final spot in the East. The Islanders They're in Washington, finishing up a home-and-home series. In their previous game Saturday night, which I was at, of course, they fell to the Capitals 3-2. The Islanders did hold a 2-0 lead going into the second period, but the Caps would come back and score 3 unanswered goals. In post-game interviews, Kyle Poso stated that he felt that the Islanders let the Capitals off the hook a little bit. You know, the Capitals have been having a little bit of a difficult time scoring goals, and you know, the Isles, he said they felt that they did slack off a little bit, but Capitals are a tough team. El Montoya, the goalie, said he believes that the team played very well in front of him and that they totally deserved to win, and they put in a very hard effort. And so there you have it. El Montoya does get the night off tonight. Nathan Lawson is starting against the Capitals, and that's the Hockey Spoon with Tracy Lynn. We'll see you next Tuesday on WGBB.